We're back. We're in a battle. The battle's over. That dagger looks like it's got a green pommel of some kind. Steel, though. Just steel. Hey. I want that. Thank you. And these coins, they're like it's a gold mine down here. Right. Any info on this thing? I mean, I'm surprised I haven't found any books or anything. Nothing of lore purposes. Grab it. This machine is still working somehow. Ooh, Sujama. Fortified strength 50 points for 60 seconds. Drain intelligence 50 points for 60 seconds. And Matt's, what is it called again? This is another one of the Dunmer drinks. Mazda. Fortified strength 20 points. Drain willpower 20 points. And an unknown effect. Huh. Oh, that's the Flynn. Where's the Sujama? It's not really a misc. I guess it's magic. Yeah, the drain intelligence. So this is good if you're a fighter, but horrible for me. It's booze. Alright. Ay. What are we dropping here? What are we gonna put that back in this chest? Weight 0.5. Weight 0.2. If there is a way to sort this by weight, I would love to find out what it is. Value 30. Sujama and Flynn are not that valuable. I mean, Sujama and Mazda isn't. Flynn is a little bit. It's got a 10-to-1 value to weight ratio. So 100-to-1 value to weight ratio, rather. Not heavy though, is it? Why would I put the Flynn back? Am I that dumb? I wanted to put these other ones back. Jeez, Gus. It's, you know what it is? It's because now I'm at 149. Which one of these is more valuable? Because talking at the same time, it's really hard to make, you know, perhaps the smartest decisions all the time. But you know, that's the price of entertainment. What about giant cog? No, I can't take the giant cog. Just the rusty ones. Even the rusty ones are worth 100. How about that? Here we go. Speaking of lore, A Dance in Fire Chapter 4. 18 Bosmeri and one Cyrodiilic former senior clerk for an Imperial Building Commission trudged through the jungle westward from the Xylo River to the ancient village of Indisi. For Decimus Scotti, the jungle was hostile, unfamiliar ground. The enormous vermiculated trees filled the bright morning with darkness and resembled nothing so much as grasping claws bent on impeding their progress. Even the fronds of the low plants quivered with malevolent energy. What was worse, he was not alone in this anxiety. His fellow travelers, the natives who had survived the Khajiit attacks on the villages of Granos and Athe, wore faces of undisguised fear. There was something sentient in the jungle. We are in the Bosmori. We have 18 Bosmori and one Cyrodiilic Imperial. I say Bosmori, I meant Bosmeri. In an Imperial Building Commission, and they're in a jungle somewhere, along something called the Xylo River and so on. This is the Imperial, but what really scares him is his fellow travelers who have been fighting Khajiit. Apparently, the Bosmerian Khajiit are fighting a lot. Anyway, there was something sentient in the jungle, not merely the mad but benevolent indigenous spirits. They might be in Khajiit. No, the Khajiit land is. I don't know what their land is like. I think it's a desert though. His peripheral vision, Scotty could see the shadows of the Khajiit following the refugees, leaping from tree to tree. When he turned to face them, the lithe forms vanished into the gloom, as if they had never been there, but he knew he had seen them, and the Bosmeri saw them too, and quickened their pace. After 18 hours, bitten raw by insects, scratched by 1,000 thorns, they emerged into a valley clearing. It was night, but a row of blazing torches greeted them, illuminating the leather-wrought tents and jumbled stones of the hamlet of Vindisi. At the end of the valley, the torches marked a sacred site, a gnarled bower of trees pressed close together to form a temple. Wordlessly, the Bosmeri walked the torch arcade toward the trees. Scoti followed them. When they reached the solid mass of living wood, with only one gaping portal, Scoti could see a dim blue light glowing within. A low, sonorous moan from 100 voices echoed within. The Bosmeri maiden he had been following held out her hand, stopping him. You do not understand. But no outsider, not even a friend, may enter. This is a holy place. Got some Bosmeri, so why are we reading this story? Well, look, we're learning about the Bosmeri culture, right? He's been bitten up by insects in this hostile environment. He's come around the things, this torches march, a sacred site. And we're seeing that it's a narrow bower of trees pressed together wordlessly to form a temple. Torch Arcade is a good phrase, too. Scotty noted and watched the refugees march into the temple. The refugees, heads bowed, their voices joined with the ones within. So you might think, oh, this is the volume 4, we should wait until the other ones. No, this is just like how you play this game. You just find out as you go along. You piece things together. You imagine for yourself. So you make theories, and then you find out, right? It's like scholarship. You feel like it's like you turn that into a game. Okay, sorry. By the way, it's dance and fire. But what about ice? There must be food to be had somewhere. A tendril of smoke and a faint whiff of roasting venison from beyond the torchlight led him. There were five Cyrodiils, 2 Bretons, and a Nord. The group gathered around a campfire of glowing white stones, pulling steaming strips of meat from the cadaver of a great stag. I like these people already. At Scotty's approach, they rose up, all but the Nord, who was distracted by his hunk of animal flesh. Good evening, sorry to interrupt, but I was wondering if I might have something to eat. I'm afraid I'm rather hungry after walking all day with some refugees from Grenos and Athe. They bade him sit down and eat. You don't do two with bade, okay? And introduced themselves. So the war's back on, it seems, said Scotty amiably. Best thing for these effete do-nothings, replied the Nord in between bites. I've never seen such a lazy culture. Now they've got the Khajiit striking them on land and the High Elves at sea. If there's any province that deserves a little distress, it's damnable Valenwood in which we seem to find ourselves. These books are written in a way where you can kind of just pick them up, even if you're on volume 4. I don't see how they're so offensive to you, laughed one of the Bretons. They're congenital thieves, even worse than the Khajiit, because they are so blessed meek in their aggression. The Nord spat out a gob of fat which sizzled on the hot stones of the fire. They spread their forests into territory that doesn't belong to them, slowly infiltrating their neighbors, and they're puzzled when elsewhere shoves back at them. That's where the Khajiit are from. They're all villains of the worst order. What are you doing here? Asked Scotty. I'm a diplomat from the court of Gehenna. What about you? What are you doing here? Asked one of the Cyrodiils. I work for Lord Atreus's building, commission of the Imperial City. Lord Atreus's building. I work for Lord Atreus's building commission in the Imperial City, said Scotty. One of my former colleagues suggested that I come down to Valenwood. He said the war was over and I could contract a great deal of business for my firm rebuilding what was lost. One disaster after another, and I've lost all my money, and I'm in the middle of a rekindling of war, and I cannot find my former colleague. Your former colleague? Murmured another of the Cyrodiils, who had introduced himself as Regulus. He wasn't by any chance named Leodes Juris, was he? You know him? He lured me down to Valenwood in nearly the exact same circumstances, smiled Regulus grimly. I worked for your employer's competitor, Lord Vanix's man, where Leodes Juris also formerly worked. He wrote to me asking that I represent an Imperial Building Commission and contract some post-war construction. I had just been released from my employment, and I thought that if I bought some new business, I could have my job back. Juris and I met in Athe, and he said he was going to arrange a very lucrative meeting with the Sylvanar. Scotty was stunned. Where is he now? I'm no theologian, so I couldn't say. Regulus shrugged. He's dead. When these Imperial are supposed to be good at charismatic, right? He's dead. When the Khajiit arrived, when the Khajiit attacked Athe, this is all just racist, but whatever. When the Khajiit attacked Athe, it's racist people being racist. It's racist writing about people who are racist. That's weird, isn't it? When the Khajiit attacked Athe, they began by torching the harbor where Juris was readying his boat. Or I should say my boat, since it was purchased with the gold I bought. By the time we were even aware of what was happening enough to flee, everything by the water was ash. The Khajiit may be animals, but they know how to arrange an attack. He's dead. I think they followed us through the jungle to Vindices, said Scotty, nervously. There was definitely a group of something jumping along the treetops. Probably one of the monkey folk, snorted the Nord. Nothing to be concerned about. Wait, what? There's monkey folk out here? And there's monkey folk in Valenwood? Because there's a monkey race in a different continent on Nirn, the planet in which Tamriel rests. There's monkey folk in, supposedly in, what's that place called? Akavir, the other continent. Anyway, I accidentally scrolled back. The Nord is obviously wrong. When we first came to Vindisi and the Bosmeri all entered that tree, they were furious, whispering something about unleashing an ancient terror on their enemies. The Breton was shivered, remembering. Is that what's gonna happen? Oh god, I know what's gonna happen here. They've been there ever since. For over a day and a half now. If you want something to be afraid of, that's the direction to look. The other Breton, who was representative of the Daggerfall Mages Guild, which is where the Bretons are from, was staring off into the darkness while his fellow provincial spoke, maybe, which they're telling you. They're teaching you lore, it's edutainment. Maybe, but there's something in the jungle too, right on the edge of the village, looking in. More refugees maybe? Asked Scody, trying to keep the alarm out of his voice. Not unless they're traveling through the trees now, whispered the wizard. Nord and one of the Cyrodiils grabbed a long tarp of wet leather and pulled it across the fire, instantly extinguishing it without so much as a sizzle. Now Scody could see the intruders. They were elliptical yellow eyes and long cruel blades, catching torchlight. He froze with fear, praying that he too was not so visible to them. Unlikely, given that they're cat folk. He felt something bump against his back and gasped. Regulus's voice hissed up from above. Be quiet, for Mara's sake, and climb up here. I'm up here. Scody grabbed hold of the knotted double vine that hung down a tall tree at the edge of the dead campfire. He scrambled up as quickly as he could, holding his breath lest any grunt of exertion escape him. At the top of the vine, high above the village, was an abandoned nest from some great bird in a trident-shaped branch. I really would love to see Valenwood. I know that there's Elder Scrolls Online. I've never played it, so sue me. Okay, does it even count? As soon as Scody had pulled him, it's in a second air for crying out loud. As soon as Scody had pulled himself into the soft, fragrant, and it's an MMO. Regulars pulled up the vine. No one else was there, and when Scody looked down, he could see no one below. No one, that is, except the Khajiit slowly moving toward the glowed temple tree. Thank you, whispered Scody, deeply touched that a competitor had helped him. Oh, their comrade is in arms now. He turned away from the village and saw that the tree's upper branches brushed against the mossy rock walls that surrounded the valley below. Deep touched. How are you at climbing? You're mad, said Regulus under his breath. We should stay here until they leave. If they burn Vindisi just like they did Athe and Grenos, we'll be dead as sure as if we were on the ground. Scody began the slow, careful climb up the tree, testing each branch. Can you see what they're doing? I can't really tell, Regulus stared down into the gloom. They're at the... weird comma-ing. I can't really tell, period. New sentence. Quote. New sentence. Regulus stared down into the gloom, comma. Quote. They're at the front of the temple. I think they also have... It looks like long ropes trailing off behind them, off into the pass. Scody crawled onto the strongest branch that pointed toward the wet, rocky cave of the face of the cliff. Interesting. It was not a far jump at all. So close, in fact, that he could smell the moisture and feel the coolness of the stone. Wet? Why is the rocky face of the cliff wet? But it was a jump nevertheless, and in his history as a clerk, he had never before leapt from a tree 100 feet off the ground to a sheer rock. He pictured in his mind's eye the shadows that had pursued him through the jungle from the heights above, how their legs coiled to spring, how their arms snapped forward in an elegant fluid motion to grasp. He leapt. His hands grappled for rock, but long thick cords of moss were more accessible. He held hard, but when he tried to plant his feet forward, they slipped up skyward. For a few seconds he found himself upside down before he managed to pull himself into a more conventional position. There was a narrow overcropping jutting out of the cliff where he could stand and finally exhale. Regulus. Scody dare not call out. In a minute, these are cat people, you realize. In a minute, there was a shaking of branches, and Lord Vanek's man emerged. First his head, then the rest of him. Scody started to whisper something, but Regulus shook his head violently and pointed downward. One of the Khajiit was at the base of the tree, peering at the remains of the campfire. Regulus awkwardly tried to balance himself on the branch, but as strong as it was, It was exceedingly difficult, with only one free hand. Scotty cupped his palms and then pointed at the satchel. It seemed to pain Regulus to let it out of his grasp, but he wanted to toss it to Scotty. Alright. What did he just give up? Pointing downward on the cheaties on the base of the tree, peering at the remains of the campfire. Small, almost invisible hole in the bag when Scotty caught it. What is he... with one hand, what is he even carrying? A single gold coin dropped out. Anyway, these are Imperials, right? Money. It rang as it bounced against the rock wall on the descent, a high, soft sound that seemed like the loudest alarm Scotty had ever heard. Then many things happened very quickly. The Cathay Rot at the base of the tree looked up and gave a loud wail. The other Khajiit followed in chorus, as the cat below crouched down and then sprung up into the lower branches. Regulus saw it below him, climbing up. I think Regulus is dead. Climbing up with impossible dexterity and panic. Even before he jumped, Scotty could tell that he was going to fall. With a cry, Regulus the clerk plunged to the ground, breaking his neck on impact. A flash of white... That's one competitor out of the way. A flash of white fire erupted from every crevice in the temple. The moan of the Bosmeri prayer changed into something terrible and otherworldly. The climbing Cathay Rot stopped and stared. "Care go," it gasped. "The wild hunt." It was as if a crack in reality had opened wide. A flood of horrific beasts, tentacled toads, insects of armor and spine, gelatinous serpents, vaporous beings with the face of gods, all poured forth from the great hollow tree, blind with fury. They tore the Khajiit in front of the temple to pieces. All the other cats fled from the jungle, but as they did so, they began pulling on the ropes they carried. In a few seconds' time, the entire village of Vindisi was boiling with the lunatic apparitions of the wild hunt. Over the babbling, barking, howling horde, Scotty heard the Cyrodiils in hiding cry out as they were devoured. The Nord too was found and eaten, and both Bretons. The wizard had turned himself invisible, but the swarm did not rely on their sight. The tree the Cathay Rot was in began to sway and rock from the impossible violence beneath it. Scotty looked at the Khajiit's fear-struck eyes and held out one of the cords of the moss. The cat's face showed its pitiful gratitude as it leapt for the vine. It didn't have the time to entirely replace that expression when Scotty pulled back the cord and watched it fall. The hunt consumed it to the bone before it struck the ground. Scotty's own jump up to the next... That was not a smart move, Scotty. It might be nice to party up with this guy. Scotty's own jump up... I mean, think about the profit. Khajiit is a market too. Elsewhere. Scotty's own jump up to this next outcropping of rock was immeasurably more successful. From there he pulled himself to the top of the cliff and was able to look down into this chaos that had been the village of Vindisi. The hunt's mass had grown and began to spill out through the pass out of the valley, pursuing the fleeing Khajiit. It was then that the madness truly began. In the moon's light from Scotty's vantage, he could see where the Khajiit had attached their ropes. With a thunderous boom, an avalanche of boulders poured over the pass. When the dust cleared, he saw the valley had been sealed. The wild hunt had nowhere to turn on but itself. Oh man. Scotty turned his head, unable to bear to look at the cannibalistic orgy. The night jungle stood before him, a web of wood. He slung Regulus' satchel over his shoulder and entered. Wow. Good stuff. The wild hunt. In which Bosmeri transformed themselves into monsters somehow. I really would like to keep this book so I can have the whole series. What can I drop? I'll drop some of the maybe I will drop some of these. I'll drop some salt rice. It doesn't seem like I have like I don't have a mortar and pestle right now, and like until I get all that stuff settled, I may as well, stuff is really common, so how am I now? 150 out of 150. It's not good. I'm doing pretty good on money, so I'll go ahead and put the goblet back. I mean, I'm getting some good loot here as well. In fact, having done that, maybe I can take these back. 0.10. So that's probably. I probably got a couple out of that. Can I do something with this? That'd be kind of neat if I could, but I guess not. wonder if there's any mods for that. Seems likely. Seems likely. Alright, that was worth it. You know what? I think that's probably a good place to stop this episode. I don't know how long that took, but I forgot to do the timer as usual, but I'm guessing that was a good amount of time, so I'm going to just stop it there, and we'll pick it up where we left off next time. Thank you for watching. See you then, and feel free to like, comment, and share, and subscribe. See you then. Bye.